going to start the broadcast here momentarily. Just a reminder, if you're not speaking, we do ask that you mute your microphone just to prevent some of the noise coming back. And if for whatever reason during the broadcast anyone has trouble understanding you, just a reminder, headphones and a microphone, like just the standard Apple kind of headphones, do tend to work better. As of now, it doesn't seem like we're having any issues. I just wanted to point that out. So with that being said, I'm just going to go ahead and start the broadcast, and we'll wait for further instruction from Lance and them.
The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hey, Dr. Ramswell, can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
Do you mind taking the lead? The mayor's been delayed. I'm sorry to put you in that spot, but I mean, really we're just starting and then handing it off to Crystal.
Sure, no problem. So I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. We'll start off with the Pledge of Allegiance. So if everyone could, I guess, rise wherever you are, and we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, so starting off, this is our special workshop for the budget. Do we have any public comments before we get going?
I'm not seeing any at this moment.
Okay, and I don't know if there's any public there in the room with you, anyone that wants to come to the mic, or I'm not sure how that's working tonight.
No, ma'am, at this time, we do not have any attendees.
All right, then we'll go ahead and kick off the workshop. First item on the agenda is the fiscal year 2021 budget cycle. I'm not sure is Crystal there or whomever is going to lead off this topic. Take it away.
Okay, thank you. James, would you please start the budget presentation? All right, good evening, council members. Tonight we're going to look at the operations budget for the city of Destin for this coming fiscal year. Next slide, please. And just to, this first slide is just a reminder of where we are in the 2021 budget process. We led our capital budget workshop on June 29th. This is the operational budget workshop. Next, we will be having individual sessions with council members regarding the capital and operational budgets, regarding any questions that you may have. I would just want to put in a reminder here that our maximum millage rate that we would be adopting must be, or our tentative must be certified to the property appraiser by August 4th. On August 10th, we could have an optional budget workshop, at which point we could reduce our millage rate but not increase it. And then in September, we will be adopting our balanced budget. Next slide, please. So here we have just the big picture of our taxable property values for the city of Destin. In this coming year, the property appraiser has valued us at just under $6 billion. It's about $5.8 billion. So as you can see, we're not quite up to where we were valued back in 2006 before the fall, but we are starting to catch up. Next slide, please. So on slide number 4, we have the general funds ad valorem, are projected versus actual. So this past year, our rate was at 1.6150 for our millage rate. And assuming that we would stay at that same rate, we could see an increase of approximately $588,000 for the citywide, $543,000 for the non-CRA areas. The largest increase is in the town center CRA. Next slide, please. This next slide is just to show you what the impact of 1/10 of a mil creates on our city. So we are currently at 1.6150. The median house property value, taxable property value in Destin is $420,000. So assuming your property value is $400,000, that means you currently would pay $646. If we were to increase it or decrease it by 1/10 of a mil, that would create a difference of $40 for the year. For the city, on the other hand, that is a difference of $540,000. Next slide, please. So this is an example of how we leverage the tax dollars given to us through grants and aids. As you can see, the ad valorem that comes in from our tax base would be estimated at $8.7 million, and with that amount of funding, we are able to pull in approximately $24 million in grants and aids. Next slide, please. And this is how that $646 per household would be spent. We show both the dollar amounts and the percentages. So approximately 36% of that goes towards our general government, 25% goes towards public safety, 15% towards transportation, which includes roads, sidewalks, street lighting, etc. And about 22% goes towards culture and recreation, which includes the library, Morgan Sports Center, and running all of our parks and maintaining them. Next slide, please. So now, with that base in mind, we come to our general fund operating revenues. This is just the general fund. We have taken the CRAs out and set them aside. All of the CRA revenues go towards debt service at this moment, and we're hoping that in the near future they will be paying back the general fund. But for this year, for FY 2021, of the ad valorem we would collect, $8 million of that would be for the general fund. $3.5 million in licenses and permits. The increase may come from an increase in franchise fees that we're currently negotiating towards our undergrounding project. We're also seeing a large increase in intergovernmental revenues. This is primarily grant funding for capital improvement projects from Restore and the National Foundation for Fish and Wildlife. Our other revenues, certain of our other revenues are decreasing a bit in the light of this COVID-19. Most noticeably are the municipal sharing tax and potentially gas taxes. A slight decrease there. Next slide, please. And this is our general fund operating expenditures. Staff has come and looked very carefully at their operating expenses for the coming year, and they tried to be as frugal as possible to keep the projections down. As you'll see on this next slide, we are, let's see, FY20 projected is a little bit lower, well, a lot lower actually, than the FY 2020 adopted. This is primarily due to many open full-time positions that are currently going unfilled. We do hope to fill those within the next 3 to 6 months, and so FY 2021 will be back on track. I'd also just like to point out that the Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office contract for 2021 will be about $28,000 lower than was the 2020 contract, also primarily related to salary and benefit costs. Next slide, please. So of our 2021 projected total general fund operating expenditures of $14 million, 47% of that is directly related to personnel, salaries, and benefits. So this is a short synopsis of our current personnel status. We currently have 87 full-time positions and 20 seasonal and part-time positions. We are assuming a 2% cost of living and potentially a 2% merit increases for salaries. Our health insurance costs are increasing again. Last year they increased approximately 6%, and this coming year the estimates have come back that they will be increasing another 3.5%. So we are not assuming any new positions in FY 2021, and we are currently recruiting to fill all of the 11 full-time vacancies. We hope that those people will be on board very early within 2021. Next slide, please. So the largest difference that you'll see from the 2020 adopted budget compared to the 2021 projected budget is that we would be transferring out approximately $9.8 million towards capital projects. The largest difference is in creation of a facilities renewal and replacement fund. This $1.5 million is slated for deferred maintenance to catch up on all sorts of items across all of our facilities, including HVAC replacements, some roof replacements, changing out gutters, and those types of projects. After 2021, we plan to fund that R&R fund at approximately $200,000 a year. The other major differences, well, there's the $2.7 million in capital improvement grants. Again, these are funds that are expected to come into the general fund in 2021 related to certain projects, capital projects, and we will, and they'll be going directly out to the capital outlays. In addition, we are estimating we will need approximately $3 million of general fund capital towards some major capital improvement projects. The most notable one is the beach acquisition at approximately $2 million. The other $1 million is going out as matching and other supporting funds to fill the gaps related to our other major capital improvement projects. So next page, please. So here's where all three of those come together. We have our operating revenues, our operating expenditures, transfers out, leaving our net change in fund balance at approximately $4.9 million. This is the net of the increased operating revenues coming in and the increase in primarily in transfers out that would be going out towards these capital projects. Here we show our beginning fund balance is estimated at $24 million, and our ending fund balance is $19 million. And with that, I'd like to explain about our ending fund balance. So next slide, please. Here's a description of our fund balance. And where would we find this $19 million? If we start at the top, you'll see that we have a non-spendable fund portion of fund balance. This is related to an advance made to a CRA, and the CRA will start paying back the general fund probably within the next year or two, probably 2022. Then we have restricted funds, impact fees, the second gas tax, and debt service. These funds cannot be used for general fund operating expenditures, and they are restricted mostly by Florida statute. The next section is amounts that have been committed. We have some emergency funds that have been set aside, and we also have the half-penny local surtax, which Council chose to commit or restrict with motions made in a February 2020 Council meeting. So that $2.9 million of half-penny local surtax is slated for beach acquisition and other capital improvement programs. We also have some funds that have been assigned to, most notably to software upgrades, leaving an unassigned balance at this moment of $6.5 million. That is a very reasonable unassigned fund balance because, again, you need enough capital around to cash flow the reimbursement, the cost reimbursement grants. First, we have to pay them before we can get reimbursed. And next page, please. So now that we've looked at the operating as a whole, I just also wanted to show council members where we are on our 5-year capital budget summary, the advancements that have been made over the last few weeks since our June 29th workshop. The most important thing to note is the potential grants that we have verbal confirmations that are going before different county and state boards for a total of $23 million. Approximately $18 million of that could come in as early as 2021. Next page, please. So regarding that $24 million in potential grant funding, we've made this list. The ones in light blue are not yet confirmed, but we do expect something to be signed within the next 3 months. And the remainder have all been obligated to the city of Destin. And we are in the process of working on the finding the contractors to complete these works for us, or in some cases they are already underway. With that, I'm open to any questions.
Sorry, I had to find my mouse. Okay, thank you so much. That was very thorough. I think a lot of us were probably surprised at some of the numbers, but I appreciate the record. Yeah, absolutely. So let's go through, and Mr. Minchell, you spoke up first, so you go ahead and take the lead here.
Okay, one side I'm trying to get to the page.
That's okay. It took me a while just to find my mute button. So,
Ms. Strickland, under general funds transfer out, on I guess it's the PDF page 11, general fund transfer out. Just a quick question.
Yes,
when you talk about special capital projects, you said beach was $2 million. I didn't hear what you said the other $1 million was, please.
Well, the other $1 million has been scattered amongst certain projects that require match funding, and also there was some, let's see, I don't have the long detailed list before me, but I can supply that to you.
No, that's okay. I couldn't hear it. It clicked out. I was just curious. I'm moving on to page 13 under general fund balance. Under committed, as an example, you have the half penny local surtax, and it says emergency. I'm just trying to understand what that is. What does emergency mean in that fund regard?
The city actually has 2 accounts created with Raymond James, and in those 2 investment accounts, they both have emergency written on their names, and I haven't found the background. Perhaps there was a motion by a council once upon a time that I'm looking for, but those 2 accounts are very clearly designated as emergency funds.
Okay, and it could be for cleanup after a hurricane, God forbid, or something like that. I was just, again, trying to get some answers. Okay.
Yes, and like you, I'm also looking for the answers I would like to see, because in order for us to unrestrict funds, we need to use the same legal level that was used to restrict them in the first place. So yeah, I'm that's also on my to-do list as well.
And then the next page, on page 14, we'll pick one, whether under available funding, whether it's police protection or impact fees, either one, or traffic impact fees, either one of those, for fiscal 21, obviously they have a much higher number than the corresponding years 22, 23. Right. What is that decrease due to, please?
So our 2021, when we're looking at available funding, At our 2021, this just shows the bank account balance. So those are funds that have built up over the years that are restricted towards growth necessitated transportation needs. And we anticipate that in 2022 and forward that developers would be paying us an additional at minimum $20,000 a year. We anticipate that amount of future growth. It's incredibly conservative, I'm sure.
Okay, that's perfect. I appreciate it. Thank you very much, ma'am. Appreciate it again. That's all I have, Dr. Rambo.
Okay, great. I have some questions, but other council members, if y'all have anything.
I'm sorry, I have one other question. I apologize.
That's okay.
Two different pieces of paper. Just a general question, Ms. Strickland, regarding health insurance, and you may not know this being new, but have we attempted to rebid that to try to see if we can get a better rate or anything? I don't know if that's possible or not. It's just kind of a question.
Yeah, no, that's a very good question. Our Human Resources Director, Karen Jankowski, could speak better to that. She's not available this evening.
No rush.
However, she is a very a prudent person, and she follows these pricings very closely, and she is known to go out and either search for another broker or to search the territory for better pricing when it's reasonable to do so.
Again, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Mr. Mitchell, I do recall a couple years ago we had done that because they had increased significantly our health insurance costs. And so she had brought back, or whomever it was, it might have been Chuck Garcia at the time, brought back a list of comparables with various companies. So I know they do it periodically, but I couldn't say for sure how often that is done. I just remember that experience. Mr. Marler, Mr. Overdeer, Mr. Morgan, do y'all have any questions?
I'm good.
Okay, I'll go ahead and I've got a couple. And I guess the first one was, and I wanted to make sure I didn't misunderstand you, Crystal, was when you were talking about the general unassigned, were you saying that ours was substantially higher than it should be, or it's where it's supposed to be? I wasn't sure.
It's where it should be. Generally speaking, at minimum, you need at least 3 months of your operating expenditures on hand, because you do have, most of the city's revenues come in at a certain time of the year, mostly in January, and then we have to live on that throughout the rest of the year. So come along September, October, November, the cash balances can get pretty low, so you want to make sure you have minimum 3 months of general operating expenditure funding on hand. And in this city's case, you have so many grants, capital grants that are based on cost reimbursement. So in order for us to not slow down those projects, to be able to pay those vendors so that we can get reimbursed on time, $6.5 million seems to me a very reasonable balance for your unassigned balance.
Terrific, thank you. I just wasn't sure whether I'd heard you correctly, so thank you for clarifying. I did have some questions about the open positions that we have. And I know, obviously, you're not our HR person, but I'm not sure if Lance or someone else in attendance can perhaps shed some light on those 11 positions. I was just wondering how long they've been vacant, if we could get a list of these, if there's some reason why they've been vacant a long time, just some sort of insight into that situation and anything we might be able to do to help accommodate or fill or whatever. Can someone shed light on that for me, please?
I can speak to that in general, and we can get you a list of the actual positions that are vacant. Some of the positions we intentionally froze when the virus came about in the March timeframe. We weren't sure how much, if any, revenue we would be down. So we did freeze some of the non-essential positions. Some of those were in recreation, some were in public works, and I believe one may have been at the library. The other positions that were still essential, we've still been pursuing those. We've had some recent turnover, and then we've got some of those essential positions that are just very tough to fill, like the engineering position, that we're absolutely working on it, trying to get those filled.
Okay, great. Thanks for clarifying. Any additional questions on this topic from any of the council? Okay, I guess my question in general is, what is the goal for us tonight? Obviously, there's 3 items. We just went through one of them. Does staff have an expectation of what council should vote and approve, or what you would like us to do this evening?
Yeah, well, this is just a budget workshop, so this is your place to pose all of the questions that you might have regarding the operational budget. Also, at one of the next 2 meetings, possibly the last one in July or the first one in August, as I mentioned before, August 4th is our hard deadline to certify our millage rate to the tax collector. At that point, we can set it at a certain level. If we want to decrease it before September, we can. But I just want to remind everybody that that's where we have to set the maximum that we might be charging people in the fall. Given there comes a pencils down moment when you're working with these hard deadlines, and I really didn't have enough time to give this justice. But what we're looking at is, or what I'm proposing, is that we leave the ad valorem rate right where it is at 1.615. Technically, this would be a 4.25% increase, a tax increase of 4.25%. But as you saw, the impact on the median household income would not really be significant. This would be, instead of adopting the rollback rate would be about 1.549. But I feel that the additional income, because this is that the additional income for the city at this critical juncture, when you are so close to achieving some of your primary objectives that are on your strategic plan, I feel that it would be more prudent to continue maintaining your millage rate at the same 1.615. And just looking at your history here, it looks like the millage rate was set at this rate in 2016. And from let's see.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I thought you were waiting on input.
Yes, please, input.
Okay, so we have to do the millage rate on the first meeting in August, which is August 3rd, and it turns into to the county on that date, on the 4th. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
So, having gone through this thoroughly, do you have any recommendations as a finance guru that perhaps we might not see, or something that we're not doing already? Maybe a different way of allocating funds, or something that might be more advantageous and beneficial to the city?
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that. I'm kind of in the thick of that right now. I have been looking at the current way expenditures are allocated. As you probably know, most cities, especially for our citizens, you want to see more funds spent on parks and rec and less on general government. One thing that this city is not doing to the best of its ability is not allocating out those general fund expenses. So you have a lot of expenses like maintaining the parks and the recreation facilities that's all housed currently under the general fund. And but these are, I can't, they say how's the best way to eat an elephant? one bite at a time, right? So probably over the next 18 months, you're going to see incremental changes. You're going to see better numbers in your Parks and Rec and Public Works, Transportation, and you're going to see your general fund expenditures going down. But this is just going to be a slow process as I have time to get through the books and recalculate and reallocate. So yeah, the city could definitely do better on that. Funding-wise, you're in very good shape, and I feel that you're at an appropriate level right now to meet all of the items on your strategic objective. The last thing I want to do, however, is jeopardize your future funding for your undergrounding. And the best way we can keep from doing that is just to stay a nice, slow and steady course, not make any sudden movements to the left or to the right. And to work with a solid financial advisor who understands both the bonding world as well as the grant funding world for governments to help us fund those projects. And we don't want to over allocate or overcommit certain revenue sources. We want to make sure that we keep some of those open and available potentially to pledge towards that undergrounding project if that remains a top priority.
Excellent. Thank you so much for your input. And I'm guessing that the items you've discussed and things that could be allocated differently, that's nothing you need us to talk about tonight. This would be something you'd work on and then bring to council at a future council meeting. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. It's at this moment I'm looking at just the direct, how direct expenses are applied to the different major categories, and I just noticed a lot of expenses that belong to those other major categories happen to be right now charged to the general government. So it's more of an accounting item. You're not going to see, but in broad strokes, in the big picture, you're not going to see a lot of change in your total revenues, and you're not going to see a lot of change in your total expenditures. So that's why I was trying to keep it for this meeting, just showing you, and also keeping it down to the general fund. What we're doing with the general fund right now, the CRAs are not doing a lot besides debt service at the moment. So just keeping it down to a sizable bite. And over the coming year, we'll talk more about those details.
Terrific. Thank you so much for all your hard work on this. Council, before we move on to item B, anything further? All righty. Well, thanks again, Crystal. And I'm not sure if you're the one that's going to update us on CARES Act funding, which is item B. If you are, go for it, or whomever is maybe going to be handling that.
Yeah, actually, Webb has really been focused on the CARES Act and talking closely with our counterparts at Okaloosa County, so I'll let Webb take it over from here.
Thank you, Ms. Strickland. Yes, the CARES Act, Skip had brought this item forward a few weeks ago, and we are getting our hands around this. We've had a great partnership with Okaloosa County. They have been very proactive in working with us on this item. And both Ms. Strickland, our grants and projects manager, Jeff Kozad, as well as Lance and myself has been involved on this. As it stands right now, the funds are being released to the county level, and we are working in conjunction with our local cities and the county to find identified opportunities to help the city actually deal with these issues during this pandemic. Again, the CARES Act funding must go toward it cannot supplant any existing funding. It must be in direct action on the COVID-19 pandemic. So we are coming up with opportunities that can help us on this. For instance, we are as it relates to the InterGov project, we are experiencing some challenges with staffing as well as some consulting, and that is an opportunity for us to help get some outside consulting on that project to help us keep it on track. So that is an example of something we will be working with the county and potentially bringing you an agenda item maybe as soon as this upcoming meeting in order to approve a contract to help us get some additional consulting that we need in order to keep that on track. So just want to give you guys an update. We're working hard on that, on finding the right solutions to keep the city moving forward, and we will see some additional agenda items on that in the upcoming meetings, and we will certainly reference the CARES Act on that so everybody is fully informed.
Sounds good. Mr. Overdeer, do you have any follow-up since this was an item you brought forward?
No, I mean, I've talked to Lance and Webb about this just about every Monday, and I mean, it's money that's available to us. We need to use it because we're going to be impacted, and you know, as we've seen with this budget, things are kind of tight. So the money that we've lost because of this, and we can probably make up some of that through this CARES Act. So as long as we keep following up with that and keep trying to get as much of that as we can, we'll put us back in at least reasonable shape.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Council, anything further on this topic? All righty then, we'll move on to item C, 8 on beach acquisition funding, PD Tuscaloosa County. Webb, is that a you item or a someone else item?
I think that is a me item. I'm happy to provide an update on that. As everybody knows, during this presentation, the beach acquisition project was frequently referenced. Obviously, this is large dollar amounts. We are engaging and have been engaging Okaloosa County staff, and we are continuing to do so this week. We're working tightly with them to communicate on that project and share the vision. And just want to give you guys an update that we are working with the Okaloosa County organization on this, and we hope to be bringing back some more substantial updates here in the next 2 months. We are excited at the direction this is going, and right now everything is going well.
Excellent. Anything from council?
Yes, ma'am. Webb, if you would please, I don't know if you have this info available, but you brought it up and it just brought a question in my mind. We may need more help. Again, as you said, you're trying to get more help. Where are we standing with the status as far as all of our documents being scanned? Has that been delayed because of obviously the pandemic?
I will do my best to answer that. Unfortunately, our IT manager is out, is not in this meeting right now. However, I know that the organization we contracted with was impacted by the pandemic, and I know that did slow things down about 2 months ago. I'm not exactly sure on their existing status, but I can tell you it did certainly impact their ability a couple of months ago on that project.
No problem, and that's my point. And to your point earlier about more help, I'm just thinking, is that something we should try to do to try to get more help on that regard? Okay, I don't know if that would qualify for CARES Act funding or not, but again, it's been impacted and it's something we need to move forward, so just something for consideration.
Very good, thank you, that's a great idea.
Anything else from council? Okay, well that is all the listed items for the workshop tonight. Staff, do you all have anything further?
Yeah, public comments again, probably.
Right. I was just checking with staff.
Nothing further.
Okay then. Public comments? Anybody written anything in? Anyone in person?
No, ma'am, we don't have anyone online. Ray, do you have anything? It does not appear so.
All right then. Well, that looks like it for this evening. Thank you all for attending the workshop, and I will go ahead and adjourn the meeting.
Thank you.
Meeting adjourned.